after the election, people are still dissatisfied with the government austerity program to education, welfare, and public services. UEA and many other universities in UK has also been affected by the austerity.
I think what has essentially happened is that has created a kind of market culture in higher education, which has meant that a lot of institutions have become increasingly squeezed for funding because it's all about how many students you can recruit. So, for example, at UVA there's been a real squeeze. They find themselves in that kind of squeezed middle band of institutions who aren't at the Russell Group, but they're also not at the kind of post-92 group universities who will recruit generally from poorer backgrounds from their local areas. So institutions like UEA have been particularly squeezed, and we've seen that on campus. We lost the music school a couple of years ago. That higher education is awash with cash, but in reality we're seeing a massive squeeze on a lot of institutions, which is being reflected in cuts on the ground. And I think in the next 5 years, whereas for example research funding hasn't really been touched, I think there may be real pressure on the government to cut research funding, and that would have a real big impact on institutions like UEA.
Course fee is still increasing, and some students protest the government's policy for higher education. So what do you think about it?
I think in terms of, if you look at the impact of the trebling of tuition fees, is that the people who've been hit the hardest are those from poorer backgrounds who are by and large just not going to university as much. Even though at the time we were told this won't affect students, and students aren't going to be put off going to university. In fact, that has actually happened. Poorer students won't go to university just because no one really wants to be saddled with debt. That higher education should be no different. Higher education should be something which is like a real benefit from highly educated professionals, and so I think because of that, education should be like how it is in Scotland. It should be free, and that's something which the National Union of Students believes and has been campaigning for, and that's something that we'll continue to campaign for.
I think from a business point of view, and particularly our business, which is house building, not so much the austerity, but certainly the credit crunch had a significant impact, because people stopped buying houses instantly. So that was a very instant effect on our business. That was something that we managed our way through, and we diversed, and we did other work and other business, and we still are. On a personal level, the austerity hasn't made that much difference to our family. I think that the biggest difference is the way the media has changed their way of reporting on it.
Since 8th of May, people across different cities of UK has started the anti-austerity protest rally.
A risk of ending up on a register or a criminal record. So I do think that's a very difficult and challenging position to be in. But nonetheless, if people don't protest, then things will never change.